What's going on, comic scholars? This week we're diving straight into Superman Rebirth 1. So right off the bat in the first panel, we see Superman, aka Clark White, speaking to himself in sort of a monologue kind of way about him, Lois, and his son John, I believe, coming to Clark Kent's universe and trying to blend in the best they can. He also talks about how he wants to, or he tried to save Superman the best way he could. And doing so, Superman basically knocks him out and sends him back to Earth and tells him that, you know, you have another role to serve in being Superman. What I felt in this first panel with Clark White, aka Superman number 2, he was hovering right over Superman's memoriam, and it kind of leads into, you know, the death of Superman, him being regenerated, stuff like that. So I thought that was a really, really nice touch. As Clark is hanging out over Clark Kent's memorial, he notices some footsteps and he hears somebody in the underground access tunnel. And this comes to be Lana Lang. And what she's doing is trying to take his Clark Kent's Superman 1, his remains to Smallville, back to Kansas with his folks. What I really enjoyed about this next panel right here was how much emotion Lana was able to give off. You know, she sees the Superman symbol and she immediately embraces the new Superman, but come to find out, it's not him. Lana then proceeds to tell Clark what she feels he hasn't done enough, and he's basically pretending to be the Superman of old. And he goes on to tell her that he's not pretending to be anything. Where he comes from, he is the same exact, well, not same exact, but he is the Superman of his universe. Here we see an argument unfold with Clark and Lana, and he begins to say and tell Lana, you know, his motives for being here is to bring Clark, aka Superman 1, back to life. And she's being very stubborn and saying that he's not coming back to life. He's done. He's dead. You should have did more. Now, our next panel that comes up is the comic starts to get really, really good. It then tells how Clark White, aka Superman, aka Kal-El, of his universe, overcame death and how he got killed in the first place. He goes on to talk about his fight with Doomsday, that he's never fought a beast of this caliber, you know, before in his life. And he then, you know, says that he gave all that he had. And it was actually, you know, really good to see this, because they dive into like some kind of old school 90s, early 2000s artwork, and also fighting. You know, it's a classic Superman, the Boy Scout versus Doomsday. And in doing so, he actually tells his death of Superman of his universe from his, you know, point of view. You know, he gave everything that he got. It was enough, but, you know, he died. And I feel that it's something that, you know, we need. We don't see too much of Superman, you know, always putting it on the line, giving everything he has. So you can see right off the bat that this is the death of Superman. He comes out with the long hair. He's looking fresh. He's looking clean. The outfit that they buried him in is dope, and I really appreciated it. And it's like he's not really dead, and he's not really in limbo. His body just goes into like a very, very deep hibernation, and this is the same thing that we're going to get for the Dawn of Justice BVS movie universe. You know, we seen at the end of BVS, spoiler alert, I mean, I shouldn't be saying that because you guys should have been seeing that movie, but, you know, we see that on his casket that the little dirt and the rocks start to rise up, like, you know, like he's defeated death. And so we see equal situations happening in the comic universe and in the cinematic universe. And I just think this is just an awesome touch. So the next panel shows that right after Clark White explains himself and, you know, about him being reborn, rejuvenated, and basically overcomes death. He and himself and Lana strike a deal on taking Clark Kent's remains to the Fortress of Solitude, and so they supposedly have a regenerative machine that could help bring Superman back to life. I thought it was really cool how they made Lana seem like, well, she actually knows how to get to the Fortress of Solitude, and the Superman from another universe doesn't even know how to get there. So he's kind of shocked. He's like, I wanted to take his remains to, somewhere where he could regenerate and, come back to life, but I just didn't know where the Fortress of Solitude is. So you know where it is. Let's go. As Lana and Clark come to the Fortress of Solitude, they speak with the Kryptonian technology, and it seems like they're kind of pulling from the Man of Steel on how how the technology is. It's more than crystals. It's more than just placid TVs. Well, not TVs, but just like things to watch their old Kryptonian father and mother on. But the technology begins to tell them that they don't have what they're looking for to help regenerate Clark Kent, Superman. So as they do a little bit more investigating, they find a crystal or use a crystal, and automatically Superman of Earth 1, he pops up. And if you guys haven't read, it's in the earlier comics with, I believe, Superman and Wonder Woman, but he leaves a message for his cousin Kira, and basically the message is saying, you know what, you're the last hope from our people to serve and protect Earth, be all you can be. And also Clark White comes to grips on, how Clark Kent would integrate his raising of Kansas also with, his raising in Kryptonian history. And this really puts perspective in Clark White's, mindset that, he not only did he use those both upbringings, but it's an essential part of his life. Ultimately, they're not able to find the technology they need to bring back Kal-El, Superman 1. So they just end up taking him home and just want to put him at rest, but DC is not going to let Superman stay dead. Yeah, they have another Superman and they have a Superboy, but they're not going to let Superman stay dead. The prime Superman is not staying dead. And in our last panel, we see Clark White returning to the Fortress of Solitude. And I think this is a really good thing. People who are really comic book readers of Superman, they want to see the shoes fulfilled. And yeah, you have Kira, Supergirl, you have Wonder Woman, but you want that reassurance that Superman brings. And for him to go back to the Fortress of Solitude, he knows where it's at. He erects a statue or a monument towards the fallen Superman. He puts him with his parents, and it's just like a symbol of, I'll take on whatever, you had to take on. I'll take on the burdens of this planet. I'm adopting it. So, scholars, that was Superman Rebirth 1. It's going to dive straight into Action Comics 957, and then it's also going to jump into Superman 1. So we're looking forward to some great comics from this series. Rebirth has started off great. I really don't have too many complaints, but it's still early, and we'll see how it goes. Like, subscribe, and thanks, guys.